Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's Chris. I'm here at Second Glass. I'm in the cellar. It's Cellar Chats. It's the weekly wine flights. And we have a super fun lineup this week. We got some really delicious bubbles for all those bubbly feels we got going on as we go into Valentine's Day next week. So we know a lot of you might be celebrating a little bit early since Valentine's Day falls in the middle of the week. So we thought we would do a fun little flight that feels celebratory before the real holiday for those who might be out and about doing your Valentine's Day dinners and gatherings and whatever you want to do before next week. Reminder, there is the Galentine's event on the 13th next week here at Second Glass, and then they have the Valentine's menu. So if you are going to be out and about next week, you should check into that if you haven't already. We're kind of hitting like the heavy hitters of sparkling bubbly wine. No, we don't have champagne today, but we are doing a champagne method from France. We got some Prosecco and then some sparkling Rosé from California. While there's amazing sparkling wine made pretty much everywhere, I think it would be you'd be hard pressed to argue that France, Italy, and California are the most prominent producers of great sparkling wine. So we're gonna kick it off. Sorgente. These guys are in Friuli, Venezia Giulia. So they're part of Prosecco. So Prosecco, as most people know, is located primarily in the Veneto, which is the wine region that surrounds Venice. It's a little bit further south, but there is a little small portion that crosses the border into Friuli, Venezia Giulia, up to the north and east. And this producer is based on the other side of the border. This is 100% Glera, which is the primary grape of Prosecco. What I really like about this wine is it is a Prosecco Brut. So most Proseccos on the market are going to be, they're Brut, but a lot of them are, extra Brut, which is actually a little bit sweeter. So they tend to be around, we'll say, 10 to maybe 18 grams of sugar per liter. This is done Brut. I think it's about 5 grams per liter. So it's a much drier, it still has that classic fruitiness that I think people really love about Prosecco. The bubbles are really nice and soft, but it doesn't have while I don't think Proseccos feel sweet, they always feel just a little fruitier and softer, and they do have like a touch more sweetness to them than like what I think most people think of as like classic dry sparkling. On the nose, really pretty, like peach, maybe a little like citrus, like almost like lemon curd. I know that's a really weird flavor profile, but just like this concentrated like lemon character. Lovely minerals. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful color. Great little bubbles to it. Oh, I love this wine. I love this wine so much. I could drink this every day. If I could afford to do it, not because it's expensive, but just, kids and things like that, to have a bottle of bubbles at my house, just a case of it just sitting around, I would have this all the time and would drink it every day. It's so great. It's delicious on its own. It's great if you want to put it into cocktails or make a spritz with it. It is a lovely, lovely wine. And the other thing, the thing that I really like about Prosecco is that while I love the intense bubbliness of like traditional method, champagne method sparkling wines, sometimes I don't want something that bubbly. And Prosecco, because of the way it's made, it's done tank method, where the second fermentation happens in tanks. So you have a much larger thing of wine that is being fermented and basically creating carbonation. The bubbles are just softer and not as intense. And that's actually kind of nice. It's a little refreshing. It's not so harsh on your palate. Whereas like champagne, again, I love it. I'm not saying I don't. But champagne sometimes can be overly intense with the bubbles. And a lot of people, I think, don't like champagne for that reason. So Prosecco kind of hits that happy spot. Oh, so excellent. Again, that is Sorgente, their Prosecco Brut from the Prosecco region in Italy. Now, off to France. This is Thierry Richoux. This is his Crémant de Bourgogne. So he is based primarily in Irancy, but then he has some holdings of fruit a little bit further north. So Irancy is just outside of Chablis. So we're in the very, very north of Burgundy. And this is 100% Pinot Noir, so a Blanc de Noir technically, made in the classic champagne method. And I believe I've talked about this on these before, but you know, there are people that definitely don't know or don't realize that the primary area in Burgundy for making sparkling wine historically produced sparkling wine that was labeled as champagne. It was part of Champagne because they're not that far apart. So long history of making champagne method wines in this area, just they don't get to call it champagne. So what do we get out of that? It tends to be a little less expensive, a little more readily available, but the quality, the soils, everything about it is basically the same as the far south parts of Champagne. So again, Thierry Richoux really made a name for himself making really lovely Pinot Noirs from an area in Burgundy that's really known for white wine. Again, we're not far from Chablis. That is white wine heaven for Burgundy. But there's a couple little pockets where Pinot Noir has historically been planted, and Thierry makes really great ones. And then he makes this lovely Pinot Noir, Blanc de Noir, Crémant de Bourgogne. I mean, little brioche. You get a little bit of that lemon curd. Again, maybe that's just from the Prosecco from before, but I do get this like citrus minerality. Kind of like a white raspberry. I mean, gorgeous bubbles, really pretty color. I mean, immediately, oh wow. There's a really lovely roundedness to it. Some like stone fruit, maybe almost more of that kind of like raspberry fruit kind of character on the palate. Much more intense on the bubbles, much more like that. You can tell the aging process because it's done in bottle, the champagne method. You get more complexity and richness on the palate without it being heavy or cloying. It's just a little richer in character, whereas the Prosecco was really bright and fresh and clean, and I just want to like chug the bottle, put one of those crazy straws in it, and just walk around town. I think that we should make that the new normal. Just a Prosecco bottle, crazy straw, walk around town. That's how I'm going to serve going forward. That's how it's going to work. Oh, Thierry. Excellent stuff. Crémant de Bourgogne, Thierry Richoux. Really, really good. And then we're jumping across the pond, as they would say, heading to the West Coast. This is Ultraviolet Sparkling Rosé. So this is a project started by Samantha Sheehan, who is the winemaker owner of Post Cellars. She also does the Mom and Pop Vermouths, if you've ever seen those around. And then she started this label, I don't know, maybe a decade ago, and was actually focused on Cabernet. And then she's expanded into sparkling wine, which she's really known for. Oh my goodness. Apparently this is my first time opening sparkling wine. So she's known for making a really lovely sparkling wine under her Post Cellars. And this actually comes from the same vineyards that she does that sparkling wine. Now under Poe, she makes it as a traditional method, kind of champagne, more intensely bubbly, more brioche, again, more of that like complexity. But for Ultraviolet, for obvious reasons, because she wants this wine to be affordable and for people to be able to drink more often than not. She does it tank method. It is 100% Pinot Noir. All comes from the Manchester Ridge Vineyard in Anderson Valley, which is kind of like a go-to site for her. Cool climate, really lovely Pinot and Chardonnay off that vineyard. And this just represents all the joys you can get from well-made, affordable sparkling wines, and in rosé, because you know what? It's Valentine's Day coming up, and who doesn't want a little bit of pink bubbly in their lives? I know I do. Again, look at that. Absolutely spot on, little salmon, orange pink color. Really lovely bubbles, you know, on the nose. It's really minerally to me. Again, more of that like raspberry, but more like white raspberry, really tart, like fresh wild berry characteristics. Continues on with that same characteristic. Little white raspberry, a little cherry there, a little strawberry, citrus mineral in the background. A little bit more intensely bubbly than the Sorgente, but there's a little more ripeness and fruit to it. Again, we are California, even though it's a cool climate. Such an amazing wine. So, so tasty. All right, so quick wrap up. This week's flight features Sorgente from Friuli. the very northeastern border of the Prosecco region. Thierry Richoux, Crémant de Bourgogne. That is like champagne killer for the price. And then the Ultraviolet sparkling Rosé from California. Get out here, have some amazing... Wait for it to reconnect. Have some amazing flights. Bring your friends, bring a date, bring your mom, bring your dad, bring whoever. Just go have some great wine and enjoy your friends. Be safe. I'll see y'all later.